Welcome, everybody, to Athletically Speaking, Wagon Wheel Sports College Football Show. And today, in between our breakdown episodes, we are here covering all-time offense and the various things around college football today. I'm back here with Ryan today.
Hello, greetings.
I hope you're having a wonderful day.
Yeah,
It's been pretty good so far, I would say.
Good. Glad to hear that.
I hear you have a potato question for us, Ryan.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I'm glad you. So just a really random question for all you people out there. If you were a potato, how would you want to be cooked? What would you want to be?
What would I want to be?
Yeah,
I'm going to say I would want to be a baked potato because I think baked potatoes are cool. People like them for themselves as the potato.
yeah,
Plus, you get all the toppings on it, so you
that's
get even
true.
more delicious after the
That's true.
fact.
I respect it. I respect that.
I think that's a great,
Yeah, you can't go wrong with
great way
that.
to go.
I don't think there's very many wrong answers. I would have to say for me, mashed potatoes. I don't know, like mashed potatoes, of course, with like white gravy, but also like some honorable mentions like chilies, loaded mashed potatoes. Freaking, I love them.
That's true.
Um,
Bacon, green onions.
yeah, shout out to Chick-fil-A's waffle fries,
Mm-hmm.
fantastic potato. You can't go wrong with any of those, and underrated scallop potatoes as well. I love those things.
To be fair, any sort of potato when it hits your stomach is mashed potatoes.
It's true. That is very true.
In case anybody hasn't thought about that, you're no matter what, it is a mashed potato.
Yeah,
It ends up that way.
that is very true. That's a good point.
So we're all mashed potatoes,
We are.
no matter what. All right, let us know what type of potato you'd like to be in the comments and in the various places you can say your potato-iness.
Yes.
But
Right.
on to college football news. This happened a couple weeks ago, I think. But from what I could tell, this has like no legitimacy to it. But when whoever it was came out about it, there wanted to be an 80-team super conference in college football, and they talked about how the whole system of football did not work as it is, which I agree with. There's lots of problems with it. So they've put out this thing as an 80-team super conference, and basically what they did, and the whole premise of it was to have subdivisions of 10 teams. So you got 7 subdivisions of 10 teams each, plus the under league, or like the group of 5, the best of the group of 5, 10 teams into one conference. And the idea is that the top 70 teams, which is all of the Power 5 conferences as it currently stands, plus the Pac-12 teams as they were, would all be in this 70-team super conference. And the 10 below it that make up 71 through 80 would all be able to have relegation and promotion, kind of like they have in like soccer in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are really bad, you can get dropped out of this league and replaced by somebody who's been better in the underside of this. I kind of like it, the model.
I like it.
I like that idea of what they are trying to push here. Plus, everything that they have. So we're going to break down these divisions that they have. And this came out, the leak of the teams that they had the idea of the teams that they had in the subdivisions came out like yesterday. And the West, which is virtually the Pac-12 as it stood, would be Arizona, Arizona State, Cal, Oregon, Oregon State, Stanford, UCLA, USC, Washington, and Washington State, which is the Pac-12 as it was.
Yeah, for sure.
It all makes sense. It's very regionally based, which yet again makes sense for what college football is. And then they start changing some things up. We bring back the Southwest Conference, which is a lot of fun because you have Arkansas, Baylor, Houston, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, SMU, TCU, Texas, Texas A&M, and Texas Tech. I would enjoy that one a lot.
Oh, for sure, absolutely.
You get Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, like those 4 schools alone in that conference.
Oh yeah,
would be very fun to watch. And then you got a ton of Texas teams, TCU, SMU rivalry, all of the Texas teams rivalries. You got Baylor, TCU, Baylor, Houston games would be fun. So yeah, that's a good one.
I like it.
The next group they had was the Plains teams of college football, which was BYU and Utah, which didn't make a lot of sense in that one a
No,
lot,
a little
but
too far west.
yeah, a little too far west. But then Colorado, Iowa, Iowa State, Kansas, Kansas State, Minnesota, Nebraska, and Wisconsin.
I like.
I like
It's
it.
another good one.
It's like a Big 12 North kind of there. Your Midwest has Cincinnati, Illinois, Indiana, Louisville, Michigan, Michigan State, Missouri, Northwestern, Ohio State, and Purdue. I thought Missouri was an interesting addition to this. And I feel like they would make more sense in like the Plains.
Yeah,
I guess
it's.
I feel like if you mixed,
I can see it either way.
yeah, I could see either way. Maybe if you switched Minnesota and Missouri, that would make a little bit more sense, maybe.
Yeah, I like that. But I would. Yeah, that makes more sense to me.
But it's whatever.
And also, it's a Louisville, not Louisville. Sorry,
Louisville.
yeah.
The Northeast, Boston College, Maryland, Notre Dame, Penn State, which I like that addition there.
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh, Rutgers, Syracuse, Virginia, Virginia Tech, and West Virginia.
Well, I know who would run that.
Oh yeah, 100%. That would be pretty easy. Penn State, Notre Dame, right in there.
Yeah,
West Virginia would actually have a home that they're not traveling
that's true. That is
thousands of miles to get to for a football game.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And the Southeast, which is not the Southeast you're thinking. The Southeast, Clemson, Duke, Florida, Florida State, Miami, NC State, North Carolina, South Carolina, a great addition there, UCF, and Wake Forest.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad. Then your South, which would be Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Kentucky, LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt. Basically, your today's Southeastern. And then the 10 schools that they had as their bottom tier, the 71 through 80 group, would be Boise State, James Madison, Liberty, New Mexico State, I think is what that is, Miami of Ohio, Toledo, Troy, Tulane, UNLV, and then UTSA.
Yeah. Hey, I mean,
that's not bad. I
No.
feel like your Boise State, Tulane's probably going to run that for the
yeah,
most part, but
I agree. But I like it overall. I mean,
overall, I feel like this is good.
yeah,
I'm happy with the regionality,
yeah,
but I like it. They should do it.
they should.
I don't know if a full-on super conference, how that all work is if each your top two would be, or your number one seed would get a bye, while the
Yeah.
bottom six play it out in a playoff, and then you get in the second round. They'd be come up with all sorts of ways to get that out there, I think.
Oh, sure, I like it.
But that'd be cool.
Yeah, that would save Stanford and Cal some gas money too.
It would.
Out east.
For real, they're playing in the ACC this year, and now they're going to be going all over the place. So, yeah, that's cool. I like it. Next up on the docket, O.J. Simpson.
R.I.P. The Juice is loose.
Juice is dead. He wasn't a great person. He won a Heisman, and then he sold the Heisman, and then he robbed
Gotta do what you gotta do.
it back from that person. So
gotta respect the hustle, the grind. You know?
I guess so. Yeah, he murdered 2 people. I think
allegedly,
potentially. Yeah, I mean he was acquitted of it, I guess, but you never know. We don't know.
Yeah.
But goodbye,
wild,
OJ.
Though, for real.
Thank you for your Shrek meme. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's looking up at us right now.
He is.
That's great.
Probably is.
I'm just kidding.
That's a good one. All right. Next up, this is not college football, but I thought it was fun to mention. Caitlin Clark went first in the WNBA draft to the Indiana Fever. And I've been seeing a lot on Twitter about how they don't make the same amount of money as like Wembanyama for the Spurs, how he brought in a few million, but then like she's going to be getting only like 70,000 or whatever. Well, and my biggest thing for this is the WNBA doesn't bring in as much money.
The money that the NBA does. I mean, it's just cold hard.
On a percentage basis, I don't know if this is true or not, but I think from what I saw a long time ago when this came up the last time was that percentage base, the WNBA players make more based on the total revenue than the NBA players do. It's like the NBA brings in so much money, and then like the players get whatever percent of that, but the WNBA brings in so much money, and them players get paid more percentage wise than the men do.
That's nice.
Just because it's more money doesn't mean that it's equal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like if you were wanting the same percentage, you would actually take a pay cut compared to what the NBA players are making. It's like bring in more revenue, get more fans, more people going to the games and stuff, and that's how you get more money.
Which I'm sure that, since everyone knows who Caitlin Clark is now, I'm sure that there will be more.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll take a bump.
Yeah, it probably will.
Because Clark was a big name for Indiana or for Iowa. Mm-hmm. They brought him. She herself brought them to back-to-back national championships. They didn't win them because you had an elite LSU and an even more elite undefeated 38-0 South Carolina team.
Yeah, like there wasn't no stopping that.
Like you're not going to beat those teams, but the fact that she brought them there and did what she did is amazing. Plus, she's got the scoring records for both men and women's.
That's awesome.
So props to you, Caitlin Clark. All right. That's all the news-worthy items that I have. So today, in part 1 of our all-time team series, we are doing the offensive side of the ball. So how do you want to do this?
However you want to.
Do you want
we can do
one position by position, go down the list?
Yeah, we can do that.
All right. I'll allow you to go first.
All right.
And we'll start from the top with quarterback. Who is your all-time best quarterback?
I would say, for me, my all-time QB, I would have to put Tim Tebow, I think, up there. Played for Florida from 06 to 09. He is, I would say, one of the best. He won the 07 Heisman. He had a natty in 07 and 08. I mean, you can't, when you bring two, that's funny. He's an Oklahoma fan, so yeah. But no, he went for over 9,200 yards in his career, like everything. So which I have up there though, Sam Bradford as well.
Thank you.
I mean, you have to say him at least, but he still don't trump Tebow. But
I'll talk about that later too.
So who you got?
I got, after much thought on this, and I feel like quarterbacks progressively got better when you think about like all time, like every quarterback that was throughout the 70s, 80s, 60s, 50s to now, quarterbacks today are much better.
Oh yeah,
because you can throw the ball, and if you have a scrambling quarterback, you run the ball. So today's quarterbacks are just better. With that in mind, I have Cam Newton as my quarterback. He, kind of like what we just talked about with Caitlin Clark, Cam Newton, Auburn's team in 2010 was not great. But he brought Auburn to the title game, and he himself won many games with just his willpower that season.
Oh, yeah.
Cam Newton was a stud throwing. He was even more of a stud running the ball. So with that, he takes my top spot there at quarterback.
That's well deserved. I mean, to be on the defensive side of the ball there, and you got Cam Newton, he has all the things. And
I know.
That was always a scary time, I bet, to play against him.
Newton.
Yeah.
Taking the money.
That's right.
But, whatever. He was pretty good, I guess.
Yeah. I forgot about that. I'm going to do
who's your running back?
Running back next.
Yep.
I have to say the late, great Barry Sanders. Played for Oklahoma State in the 80s. He won the 88 Heisman, which he was actually Oklahoma State's first Heisman winner.
Nice.
So that's always cool. But he had 54 touchdowns, almost 3,800 yards in the seasons he was there. He averaged 7.6 yards per carry.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you can't really say. I mean, he deserves it. And then I have Herschel Walker from Georgia in the 80s as well. And then Adrian Peterson.
Good one.
He's an honorable mention as well. He did really well, especially when he was healthy, because he didn't have a lot of issues.
He did
being healthy, but he
that last year
did fantastic though for what he.
He should have won the Heisman his freshman year, but whatever.
Snubbed.
He was very snubbed.
Yeah.
So I actually had Barry Sanders written down, and I was like, he's pretty good. And I was like, he won a Heisman, and nobody's won 2 Heismans. And then it hit me. Archie Griffin did, in fact, win 2 Heismans. Yeah. The other OSU, Archie Griffin, running back at Ohio State, won 2 Heisman trophies while there, led Ohio State in rushing for led the nation in rushing for both of those seasons. So with that, he definitely bumped Barry Sanders, but it is a close second for Barry Sanders to be number one, except the fact that Archie had 2 Heismans, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to argue with that one.
That's fair, I guess. That's fair.
All right, 3 receivers.
My top 3, I would have to pay. I have on my list Devontae Smith, Alabama, through 2017 to 2020. 47 touchdowns, almost 4,000 receiving yards. He won the 2020 Heisman, I believe. Is that right?
Yes.
Something like that, yes. And then the 17 and 20 Natty, which actually he was the first wide receiver to win the Heisman since 1987.
Desmond Howard?
So can't really. That's
good.
That's really good. And then second spot, I have James Washington with Oklahoma State from 2014 to 17. He had almost 4,500 yards, 39 touchdowns. He won the Blitnikoff, which is always nice. And then I have Justin Blackman as well, 41 touchdowns. And I love my Oklahoma State. I'm a little biased, I guess.
Slightly there.
Wide receiver U, I would say. But
you're going very new school.
I
went very old school.
Yeah. Who you got?
So my 3, I started off with Randy Moss from Marshall.
Yeah.
Get mossed, as they would say. He was good in college, and it carried over, and he was good in pros.
That's right.
He's just a good man, a good dude.
What a goat.
He is, for what? He made Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
He put him on the map. So Moss is up there as my number 1. And then, as you just stated, Desmond Howard winning the Heisman as a receiver. He's coming out. That's a pretty good point. As you said, another receiver didn't win the Heisman until 2020.
Yeah.
After he did. So it's been a while. So he was good enough to do it.
Oh yeah.
He gets on the list. And then Tim Brown at Notre Dame. Ooh. And that was back in like the 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
So it's been a hot second.
Just a bit.
But Tim Brown made a name for himself, and there we go. Yeah. That's my 3 receivers.
Heck yeah. Well, we're doing
tight end
next. All right. So number 1 for me, it was kind of difficult, but I have Brock Bowers with Georgia just because they won back-to-back natties with him. And then also, trying to read my notes, he was the first, which I guess I'll go to my list after this, but he was the first tight end to lead the national championship team in receiving yards since Oklahoma's Keith Jackson in 1985.
That's called a preview, folks.
Yeah. So, but yeah, 31 TDs, 2 natties. You can't really argue with that. And then I have Keith Jackson in my number 2 spot. And then audible mention Gordon Hudson with BYU in the 80s.
Nice.
So
would it be 84 or 83?
83.
BYU.
No.
Natty that they won there.
Which I have my notes too. He still holds the NCAA career records for a tight end for catches per game and receiving yards per game.
Nice.
And he has the most receiving yards or receptions in a game, like in one game too. So 259 yards as a tight end. It's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
No.
So as you said, my tight end is Keith Jackson from Oklahoma.
That's fair, yeah.
For all the reasons that you stated, he led the up until Brock Bowers national championship. He was leading receiver there. Keith Jackson's cool. He's a hoss. People still talk about him today. Plus, he's from Oklahoma, so that's a nice perk.
Is he from Oklahoma? That's nice.
Well, he played there.
I don't know if
he's like, from Oklahoma, but he played there. Okay.
Yeah. God dang.
All right, so
Boomer Gooners.
I went down the line with.
You went in depth with
in-depth linemen, and I went through each position. So
I'll go first. I guess since mine's pretty short.
Yeah, I didn't go the whole line.
I didn't go individual. I'm not too knowledgeable. It's more difficult to, I don't know, but I just went across the board on offensive linemen. I have number 1, just the Georgia Bulldogs, the most recent, or from 2020 to now. They are 50. They've won 50 games and they've lost 4, and they have the 21 and 22 natty. I feel like with an offensive line, like with those kind of stats, you can't really argue with that. they're some of the best. And then a shout out to Alabama from 09 to 12. They have 3 natties, 1 in 4 years. So got a shout out to those guys. But mine's very short and sweet on that. So you can take it over
Nice.
with
So
your individual.
he went as a group. I went individually
I like it though.
through the position groups. So I'll start with center. I want to go Chuck Bednarik, which I feel like for a couple people on this list of linemen, if you have an award named after you, I feel like you're a pretty dang good player. So Chuck Bednarik was one of the best centers to ever play the game. I got him on the first on my list as the head of that line, O-line, and he's from Penn, like not Penn State, but Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
The Ivy League.
No.
As for my guards, for much of the same, one of the guards here, Brandon Burlsworth from Arkansas, the greatest walk-on, or which has the walk-on award. He walked on. He was from Harrison, Arkansas.
That's right. Yeah.
He came in, walked on at Arkansas.
Yeah.
And then,
if you haven't seen that movie, by the way, it's a good movie.
I have not seen that movie, but
it's a good movie.
I need to watch it. But he done great things. He passed very early on. I think he was like 22, 23 when he died.
It was very sad.
So that whole thing is sad. But he was a great guard, and he's on my list. John Hanna from Alabama. He closes out the other end on the guards. On to my tackles. Jonathan Ogden from UCLA. This man allowed 2 sacks in 23 games.
Oh.
That's pretty wild to think about.
I agree.
Offensive linemen nowadays, and compared to allowing 2 sacks, that doesn't happen very often.
No.
And then finally, Orlando Pace is the other tackle from Ohio State. This man won the Outland and Lombardi Awards in back-to-back seasons in 95 and 96. It was the first time that that's ever been done. And on top of that, he finished 4th in the Heisman voting, which doesn't happen for an offensive lineman.
Wow. So, I didn't even be in the nomination for that. Or...
Yeah, for real. Wow. So, Orlando Pace, you are
a stud, a hoss.
In my tackle group for
like you
the greatest tackles of all time. So there you go.
That's sweet. I like it.
I'm ready for. I think defense is going to be a lot of fun.
It will be
coming up here whenever we get back to it, right around from it.
Yeah.
But real quick though, who would strike you when you're thinking about all-time offensive teams? So like we went through players and who we think are some of the best of that position group. Who would be some of the best just total offensive teams since 2000?
Since 2000, yes, you have to start with Miami in the year 2000 or 2001, one of the two. They won the Natty. They were really good. And then, I'm trying to think of which I like saying Miami just because they're irrelevant now. Cool. So it's cool, Miami. But I guess, and then you have up until what did Saban join Alabama, like 07 or something? He started that whole dynasty. So I would say Alabama is pretty consistently good throughout the 2000s or 2010s. And still. And then I mean, Georgia. You can't really say
21 Georgia specifically.
Yeah,
because really Georgia, I felt like in 22 when they won their second one was really like a granted, which I can't think of his name now. Stetson Bennett. He was good, but the defense carried Georgia for the most part of that out of there. Any others?
Oh man, brain don't work. I mean, Clemson was decent.
Clemson with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
Which Watson in college
he was
pretty nice.
Yeah. Who's yours?
While you're thinking, I had 3 that immediately came to mind. In 2019 at LSU with Joe Burrow, with Justin Jefferson.
It's a really good one.
And some of those guys were really good. They creamed just about every team that they played,
Mm.
rail en route to a natty
Mhm.
in 2019, beating Clemson in the title game. 2004 with USC, Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, and that offense
Yes,
was lethal.
Yeah, it was.
They won a national championship, even though it got vacated. Haha. And Reggie Bush got his Heisman taken away. But that offense was good, and you can't look at that now and think that they weren't good
I
because
agree.
they clearly deserved all that. And then 2008, Oklahoma, which lost the Natty that year.
Oh, yeah.
But they were the first team in history to have 5 straight games of 60-plus points scored.
Mm. Yeah.
So that classifies them,
Oh, for real.
I would say, as one of the top offenses since the 2000s.
Yeah.
Anything past that, I think it'd be fun to rank those sometime.
Yeah.
Let's go through and 1 through 24,
Nah.
20, 24. Yeah.
I agree.
All right. Well, that's all I got. You got anything else to add?
No, that was about it. I was trying to think of teams I didn't mention whenever I was talking about the players, but you pretty much said some of the others.
Yeah, I mean, really, I mean, any of the Oregon offenses, you could probably say Oregon.
I mean, they've been pretty. They just can't quite get over.
Yeah, they can't get over the hump. But
I mean,
Oregon in 2014 with Marcus Mariota was good.
Yeah.
Oregon in 2010 when they went to the national championship was good, and Chip Kelly had them putting points up. I think Oregon has actually broke that record that OU had of the 5 straight games. I think they put up 60 points in 5 or 6 straight games that year.
No.
So they were pretty dang good.
They were.
But yeah,
well,
that's all I got. That's all you got?
That's all I got, I think.
All right, well, that'll do it for this episode. Come on back
to the Butter Barn.
To the Butter Barn, which is next week when we come back and do the Big Ten preview, and we'll be talking Big Ten football. So that is it for Athletically Speaking.
Bye-bye.